Hola! So today I am coming in live to answer one of the questions, which wasn't quite a question, but it was one of the topics that I was asked to speak to, and it is boundaries. So just so we are fully clear, this is my perspective on it, which is something that I often share or discuss or open up or just invite people to consider when I'm working with somebody. So boundaries, I think, has a lot to do with your definition of them. If you're anything like me, I grew up thinking that having boundaries was kind of like selfish, rude, unnecessary, and so I had a negative connotation with the word boundary, and I thought that it was kind of like not the right thing to do. So therefore, I would avoid it. I would not set them. I would avoid the topic altogether. I would just make sure that nobody was feeling left out or I was hurting any type of feelings. That was how I believe boundaries were, what they felt like, what they meant. And so for a long time, I did fall into tendencies of a people pleaser tendencies in which you are making sure that everybody around you it's okay, until one day maybe you hit bottom, you reach burnout, or you definitely cross your own values and just start second guessing like the decisions that you're making. So as I share this, I'll introduce myself in case you don't know me. Telma Sanchez. I'm a neuroscience life coach, and I help high achievers get to the next level by actually opening. I don't know if we're still live, but I share a lot of like mirror and blind spots that might be holding the person up due to the perspective or sometimes assumptions or beliefs that we grew up with. So boundaries is a big topic in the work that I do because a lot of people have the negative connotation with the word of boundaries. And so today's invitation is for you to reconsider the definition, or to actually get really, really clear of how is it that you think of boundaries. How do you define them? How do they make you feel? Do you have a negative connotation, or do you think they are awesome? The Telma that is speaking to you today, a life coach, a mom, a friend, a partner, and many other labels. I happen to think now that boundaries are beautiful, amazing. I do think they are a gift, and the word boundaries is the most popular one, but I do think that I define them as clarity. If I think of boundaries as clarity, it's very easy for me to want to seek clarity. I do think clarity is kind. I do think it's a gift. I do think that it's very helpful, especially for somebody. Many of us tend to assume a lot of things and maybe create a little bit of a story in your head, and before you know it, you're already having like an emotion about it, a decision about it, or it doesn't really quite feel good in your body. But if you're asking for clarity, or if you are providing clarity, it's actually coming from a loving intention, or from a place of wanting to be understanding to somebody else or understood. So when I think of like boundaries that way, I think that they are so easy, and they're kind, and they're awesome, and they're a really good conversation to have with somebody that you care about. Think about the closest people to you and the communication that you have with them, and how is it that you go about telling them when something doesn't quite feel good for you. That's providing some sort of clarity. And now, the one thing that a lot of people might skip is, not only do they completely skip the relationship that they have with boundaries, like positive or negative connotation, but also how are they keeping their own boundaries with themselves. So if I set up a boundary of like, I personally don't like showing up late to places, or I don't like waiting for people, but I'm really clear about it. I am known to be very direct and very like front about certain things. So it is kind of like an expectation that I have set with everybody that is super close to me. But if I have never said it before, and I'm meeting a person for the very first time, then the expectation is not necessarily realistic, or it can be more of a wiggle room. But there's certain things that are really close to you and to your values and what feels good and safe in your body, and boundaries allow you to keep that. So a really good way of going about that is to communicate them, to say what feels good, what doesn't feel good, because what you tolerate will continue. So if you don't speak to it, if you don't say something feels uncomfortable, doesn't feel good, or you're not willing to wait for somebody, then the person doesn't know, and it can really be easily a misunderstanding that can be fully avoided by open communication, which is clarity, which is boundaries, or speaking of your mind, or speaking up for yourself, for your values, for how you want to be treated, how you expect people in your world to go about having a relationship with you. This can be a friendship, a work partnership, in teams, and family members. So this is an invitation on this topic to first invite you to really get aware and accept how is it that you feel about boundaries. First and foremost, do they feel good? Do they feel bad? Do you feel uncomfortable? And if you feel uncomfortable, why? Did you learn that from the past? Were you told that they were bad, or have you had a really terrible experience with them? And if so, how is that like serving you and your values? Do you feel like you're really clear with people? Do you feel that you can communicate and express what is not okay with you and what is okay with you? Because also a beautiful boundary is to say like, oh, I really, really love it and appreciate it when you're on time, so we can make the best out of time, right? Or it can be tiny little things, but they add up to the way that you communicate with everybody around you, not just your close people, but everybody in general. So this was just a quick little, I don't even know what this was, like information perspective on how I go about speaking to boundaries. Why do I think it's an important topic for everybody to consider? Why do I'm inviting you to think about the questions that I just provided, and for you to really get real with you. The moment that you can get real with yourself, then you can start getting real with others. But it really does start with yourself. And when I first started working like with boundaries, I was like, oh, we don't need to do all that. That's completely like, it felt like a prenup or a contract that I was just like, I don't really fully understand it. So it can feel intimidating when you don't know enough about it, or when you already had a negative connotation with it. So this is just an invitation on a perspective that has served me and a lot of people that I have worked with very well. And I think it's an invitation. Can you be clear with what you like, what you don't, what you receive, what you don't tolerate? And can it feel good in your body? Not all the boundaries are saying no. They don't have to be, they're absolutely like not rude. Some people might use this opportunity to like be rude about it, but they don't have to be. I think they are clarity, open communication, and honestly a really beautiful foundation for a strong relationship with whoever you might want to build it. I hope that you start with yourself though. So my name is Telma Sanchez again. I am a neuroscience life coach. These are the type of conversations that I love having in my community, with my clients, with whoever really is willing to have an exchange of perspectives. I'm definitely open to completely be not a debate, but like a conversation in which we can both say our beliefs and what has served us and what has not. So if you have any additional questions, comments, or you want to share your perspective on boundaries, please do. I fully open and available to receive these, and I hope that this serves you, gives you something to think about, and you consider it for yourself. Have an amazing rest of your day. Thank you.